Hello, my name is Putkonen. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm talking about truly living. Now, researchers have found that half our waking hours, the mind is wandering. For on average, I think they said, on average, the average person, half their waking hours, it's mind wandering. You're just aware of what is going on in the mind. You're aware of thought. You are not aware of what is actually going on around you. You're not actually aware of reality, the present moment. What is happening right now? People are on autopilot. They're hypnotized by their own thoughts. And so, if you want to live twice as long, really, all you gotta do is be truly present, mindful, and aware of what is right now. Because if half of our time is on autopilot, and that's not really living, then to truly live would be to no longer be on autopilot, no longer focused on thought, no longer hypnotized by the wandering mind and the various thoughts passing through our head. Instead, that is disregarded, it's ignored, and all the focus is put on the moment. Because thought cannot touch the present moment. All thought is about the past, which is memory, or it's about the future as speculative imagination, or it's just daydreaming and imagination. But none of that is truly reality, because think about it. If you are looking at a glass of water and your mind wanders and you're thinking about a glass of water and you're no longer even looking anymore at the glass of water, but you're just thinking of a glass of water, that is not reality of the glass of water. That, there's a difference between the thought of a glass of water and an actual glass of water. And so if you're actually fully aware of the glass and you pick it up and you feel the weight and you bring it to your lips and you take a drink and you feel the coolness or the warmness or the hotness of the water, you feel the, not all water is the same. Sometimes if it's soft water, it could be more silky. I mean, there's a certain texture and there's taste to water. But most of the time, we're not aware of this. What happens is in our minds, we go, it's water, and we chug it down without being aware of the water at all. Why bother? We know what it is. We know it's water, and water roughly tastes the same everywhere. And so really, we're not aware of the water or of the drinking of the water. At that point, we're probably thinking about something else entirely, and we're not aware of what's going on now. And this is what I mean by not really living. It's on autopilot or hypnotization. You're not really aware. Fundamentally, this is one of the main points of the Buddha's point is we're asleep. We're basically sleepwalking. And he goes, and somebody goes, oh, what are you? And he goes, I'm awake. He's fully aware of what's going on. He's fully aware of what he's doing. He's fully aware of what's going on around him. He's not trapped in a prison of thought and looking through all these colored lenses and blinders and not really seeing reality, but through a simulation of reality through all the thought. Because thought and our concepts, our beliefs, our mindset does affect how we see reality. Because if you're having a very bad day, for example, we can get into this mindset that's rather dark, and it will tinge everything going forward. Somebody could say something that could somewhat vague and could be taken as a negative way. But because of the way we are viewing the world, the way the mind is selectively perceiving things, it would interpret this neutral thing as a negative potentially, because that's the mindset you have. But if you're having a very good day and you have a very upbeat and bright mindset, the same neutral thing could be taken as a great positive. And so we're interpreting and seeing reality according to our mindset. And this is partially why we don't really see reality, because these are the colored lenses and blinders. And so part of seeing what is being at peace, calm, and able to take things in for what they are, not our interpretation of them. And so the way we kind of do this partially is it's unlearning or untraining the habits we've built up. You're kind of building in a possibility of a new routine, because children don't really think that much. We're actually conditioned and taught quite a bit that we should be thinking more before we act, and why don't you consider this, or why don't you consider that? And we start ruminating and judging our own actions, trying to beat our parents and elders to the punch before they criticize, and that kind of thing. And we build up this habitual thought and these lenses and these filters and such. And so part of it is becoming aware of these filters and then deliberately trying to ignore them or get past them. For example, labeling. I mean, we see a rose and we may think, well, that's a rose. And at that point, we're not really looking at it anymore. What we're really seeing is our concept of a rose built on prior experience, our knowledge of a rose. That's what we're really aware of. We're not really looking at that anymore. And so if you become aware of this auto-labeling function of the brain, which we weren't born with, we've conditioned and built it since birth. And so if we become aware of this and go and kind of stop ourselves and go, okay, I don't need to label this, but and furthermore, I'm going to keep looking. I'm going to look at this as if I'm looking upon this flower for the first time. Or another way maybe looking at it is going, well, great, okay, it's a rose, but this rose is unlike any other rose I've ever seen before. Can I spot the uniqueness? Just out of curiosity, you're just kind of looking for what makes this different. I mean, so there's different ways we could approach this, but you're trying to stop the auto-labeling and the superficial seeing, and you're trying to take, a step further, so to speak. And this way, we're building a potential new routine. I mean, that's kind of what meditation is all about. Because a lot of meditation is just sitting, being fully aware, not thinking. Well, and like I said, in early childhood, we weren't thinking a whole lot. We've conditioned and built all this thought. Early adulthood, we had too much stuff to do. So anytime there was a moment of silence, that's where planning for the future came in mind, or reassessing or ruminating about the past came to mind, or our great ideas came to mind. And we would grab all these things going, great. It's almost like you're giving a thumbs up. Thank you, brain. Keep doing this. Anytime there's a moment of silence, fill it up with the stuff that I'm forgetting, or stuff I should think about, or a great idea I should pursue, or whatever. And so we've built up the habit of filling silence with something, the silence of mind. And so part of meditation is sitting in silence of mind and getting the possibility of not filling that silence with stuff. And you're building a new routine in the brain that way. And then you can start doing it in activities, simple activities, walking, eating, things like that. But you're building these routines. Similarly, when it comes to awareness, you're building these new possibilities, or you can think about it as unlearning what you've been doing. You're counteracting the learning that you've acquired throughout life, because we have a very shallow, superficial way of looking at things. And so labeling is one part of it, but even if we are talking with somebody, let's say, and during the conversation, catch yourself if you're really just being fully present and listening to the person, or whether you're contemplating how you're going to respond to them or what you want to say to change the topic or whatever. Are you actually listening to them, or are you in your head planning what you're going to say? If you are driving your car and you're trying to get to work or whatever, are you just driving the car? Is all the focus on now? Are you really seeing what's going on around you? Or are you so focused on getting where you're going as fast as you can that now you're just thinking about what you're going to be doing when you get there? And so you're not really aware. You're driving on autopilot. We act so much on autopilot. I had a discussion during a home satsang that I had this last weekend. And I'd mentioned mindfulness because someone many years ago had asked the question, if I am leaving my home and I lock the door and I walk away, and I don't remember if I locked the door, was I being mindful? And I would say, well, if you locked the door, you potentially were mindful. If you didn't lock the door, you weren't mindful. What I mean by this is mindfulness does not require a memory of it. You don't have to remember every action in order to say you're mindful of it. Mindfulness is just being aware now. So if you're leaving the house and you're aware now of what you're doing, I'm closing the door, I'm locking the door, I'm walking away. If you don't remember this is fine. But if it was on autopilot, door closes, key turns, you're on autopilot, you weren't really aware of what you were doing. You're elsewhere. You're just hoping autopilot took care of it. That's something else. And so whether the door was locked could have been autopilot, or it could have been being mindful. If the door wasn't locked, it was definitely not being mindful. But it comes down to being fully aware in the moment. Not that you remember everything, it's just you're aware of what's going on. And so if you're aware that at the moment of closing and locking the door, that's being mindful. And in this, you're trying to not be on autopilot, and you're trying to fully experience and be aware of what's going on in the moment. You're being fully aware of what you're doing in the moment. And in this way, you're counteracting so much of the tendency to be elsewhere, to be thinking elsewhere, elsewhen. That's what they really mean when they say to be elsewhere, is you're thinking elsewhere and elsewhen. And you're not really here. You're not really here now. And the whole point is to be here now. That is what it means to truly be alive, is to be here now, to really be living, to really be experiencing what's going on. And not be on autopilot, not be hypnotized, not be trapped in thought, not to be having reality distorted with all these colored lenses and blinders. And so you need to kind of become aware of what you're doing, and then kind of cease to do that and redouble or put the focus back on what's going on right now. I'm really trying, I'm living now. What is going on now? So, something to play with. But if you have any questions, comments, please post below. Until next time, thank you much.